Welcome to another edition of Fall Rise Give. I am one of the co-hosts, Bartender Bob. That, of course, is my buddy Kumar. We grew up together. We were buddies in high school. Then we lost contact with each other for a lot of years. And then a couple of years ago, got back together, started talking, and here we are, Kumar, just hanging out, being guys that graduated high school from 1987. That's what we're doing. We're being our true selves, or at least we're trying to.
Yeah, trying to be true selves. 59th episode. I think we got something to celebrate on that. That's a lot of work that we've done on this podcast. It's starting to pay off. And it's exciting to be here and talk about it with you. I know we took a break this summer a little bit. We just did it once a month. And now we're back to doing it once a week again. So We hope to bring people great content and help them live their true self.
Exactly. So just so you know, for the people that are listening, the first season of the podcast was the first 52 weeks. The second season was when we were doing it monthly, and now we're on to season 3. So I'm calling the weekly. I switch it back to season 3. So we're on episode 2, season 3 is what we're doing. Yay!
Okay.
And the nice thing about being on a podcast too is you can go back and listen to them at any time. So that's the cool thing. And they're available on all your favorite podcast platforms, which is excellent. So I know that we're talking about the Sacral Chakra this time around, and that's the creative one. And it's funny because you sent me a text last night, and I was looking at it, and then I showed it to Monique, and she's like, that must be your chakra, Bob. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, you're creative, and you come up with stuff, just like that. And the funny thing is after she said that, I noticed that one of the things that one of the signs on that chakra is like stomach, and my stomach has hurt since last night since I got this. So I don't know what that means, or Kumar, but it's got to mean something.
Yeah, it's actually below the navel. It's not your stomach. The stomach chakra is the solar chakra, which is the third one. This is the second chakra. And this is below the navel. It's kind of where your sexual energy is. This is where your creative energy is. Obviously, creativity has a lot to do with sex and procreation and all of that. Desire, emotional well-being, all of those things that are tied into a knot there. If you're tied to there, you're going to have a lot of challenges emotionally. So the idea is that if your sacral chakra is in balance and it's open, your hip flexors, your body, if it's loose, emotionally, if you're in a mode of some sort of a creativity and some desire instead of just being blocked and depressed, this is the chakra you got to open up. And so that's what we'll talk about today. It's pretty exciting to be able to talk about it. My journey started with this, a book that I read by actually a Christian author, which was kind of weird to have him talk about desire and things like that. But we'll talk about it as we go along.
Man, everybody's got desires. Every single person's got desires. Doesn't matter if you're Christian, if you're anti-religion or anything. Everybody has desires, so it's okay to have. It's okay because we all have them.
Yeah, exactly. But too many times we stifle ourselves by thinking that they're not good for us, or that the desires are not holy, or whatever you want to call it. But I think the desire of sex is not necessarily a bad thing. Even Napoleon Hill in his book, Think and Grow Rich, talked about sex and how to transmute that sexual energy into something creative and something, an idea or some sort of a energy around creativity, and use that and transmute that energy into something more productive. That's kind of the key here. Is a lot of people who are energetic, people who are positive, tend to have this chakra open, and that's kind of the good thing about it, is to not have it blocked. When you're suffocating your desires, you're kind of closing it off. And so the idea is to go after your desires in a productive way, right? You're not out there just to live a frivolous life. It's to kind of transmute that energy into something productive, something that you like to do, something that you want to do, something that you want to go after, a dream, a goal, writing a song, writing a book, drawing that piece of art or sculpture or whatever, right? Some sort of creativity is how you live the best of your life. So Yeah.
How do you open these up? We've talked about, closed chakras. We talked a little bit about it last week, and I forgot to ask about that. And you just mentioned it again now with the, when people have it closed off. How do you open these chakras up and allow yourself to be more open and more free and more willing to take in these things rather than shutting them off and not listening to them? And, for me, like a lot of times when there's something, when I'm going to do anything new, or basically when I'm going to do a lot of different things, I try to tell myself that I'm going to do the best job that I can. I'm going to be the most efficient, the most successful, the most creative, the most funny, the blah, blah, blah. I try to talk myself into and up to the expectations that I expect to do myself. And, with the chakra system and stuff, how do you open that stuff up so you don't have to, or so you don't have to, think that way that, hey, I need to do a great job. You're just going to do a great job.
Yeah. I think it's a process, and there's three main components of the chakra system, right? There's a spiritually, how do you open them up? There's emotionally, and then there is physically. And so there's activities that you can do. There are things like yoga, movement, going for a walk, relaxing, meditation, things like that for moving it up and moving it through that way. So physically moving, you can open it up by doing some stretching exercises, relaxing your hips, doing some sort of a movement. That's one way for this particular chakra. The way I want to focus on these things is through meditation. And so the way I call it is kind of the emotional and the spiritual part of it. I think the physical lasts a little bit of a time, and you have to keep practicing it, which is good. Same with meditation. But I've created a chakra meditation that what I do is some breathing exercises to calm people down, calm myself down. I do about 10 reps of these, what they call pranayam, aparanayam. These are whole Hindu-based deep breathing exercises. Most meditation focus on the breath at some level. Then what I do is I do some prayers and some meditation type repetition of prayers. I do two Catholic prayers, and then I do some Hindu mantras. And then when I do the chakra meditation, I actually go in and focus on a principle. In the focus on the principle, for like last week, we talked about acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So I focus on accepting myself and saying, what can I do to accept where I am today? Sometimes I'll read the Serenity Prayer in my head. Sometimes I'll say, accept the things, ask for my higher self, my God within me, to help me open up my acceptance, to make sure I'm grounded, to stay calm, things like that. And then for this particular one, I look for creativity. I look for ideas and saying, how can I focus on my desire? What kind of goals? Let me have hope so that I can go after my desires. So I focus on principles like creativity and desire and hope. And I say, and I ask for prayers to open up these chakras. So that's what I do in the meditation. And then I focus on the color of each chakra. The grounded acceptance chakra that we talked about last week is kind of the rustic red chakra, the grounded of the earth, kind of the earth based chakra. And then the groundedness, this one is orange. As you can see, I'm wearing an orange shirt today.
Oh, yeah.
That's not by accident. I did see it in my closet, and I wore an orange shirt on purpose. So the second chakra is all about the orange color. It's a color of enthusiasm, of excitement. And so we open ourselves to excitement through multiple ways, but I tend to focus on meditation. And then you can also do it through inspiration. It's also a chakra of inspiration. You can do it through listening to music, the music that you like, music that's inspiring. And then activity, like we said, stretching, walking, going out in nature. This chakras really help benefit from doing that as well.
Did you spend any time out in the nature this last week? So before you answer that, I want to say that three of my grandchildren actually got to go on a horse for the first time yesterday. Monique volunteers at a Bible camp here in Ferryville, and they had horseback rides for kids yesterday. So the kids came down and got to go on the horse for the first time. So they got to be out in nature and got to enjoy being out, on a horse, and seeing the only one of them, only the 2-year-old actually rode the horse. The other two were just, on it and petted it and stuff. And so it was kind of cool.
Yeah, doing something new, I think, is good. Is a good way as well to open up the chakras, right? And so something different for them. Um, I think kids as a whole are much more balanced. I think they're much more inclined in themselves, and they tend to be not bogged down with all the stress and anxiety of life and things that are possible, not possible, and job and stress. So I think kids naturally tend to be much more joyous. And when we open up our chakras, we tend to be much more joyous and much more calmer and happier. I did do something in nature yesterday. I go for a walk normally in nature, but it's really around the neighborhood. It's not that special. But yesterday I went for a 2-hour hike up a place called Rattlesnake Ridge. It's about 1,700 feet climb. It's not that high, but it's just enough to kick your butt, and then you stop and you get to this point, this ridge up at the top, and you can see this amazing lake well below and the mountains all around you. And so I got to do that yesterday morning. We got up early in the morning and went out there and did it, and just had to open up the weekend really. And we were back back in the city of Seattle by 11:30, 12 o'clock.
So let me ask you this: is the reason it's called Rattlesnake is are there snakes there? Are there rattlesnakes there?
I'm sure there are. I haven't seen one. I've been going there for the last 20 some years, hiking there in and out. But I have not seen a snake, but I'm sure there are rattlesnakes there.
So did you see the post I posted on Facebook the other day about the snake that was coming out of my garage? So
yeah, I did see that. I wasn't. You. What was the comment that you made? You said something about.
I've heard of snakes on a plane, but not snakes in my garage. So before we bought our house, we have a steel sided pull shed. So it's a 40 by 60 shed that's filled with junk, of course, because that's what we all have in our lives. But there's there's somebody before we bought it hit it, and there's a break in the metal. Got back from a motorcycle ride the other day, and I saw a snake with his head poking out the rip in the metal. And I had to take a picture of it because I hate snakes. I'm not a fan of snakes at all. But to see this one just hanging out just right there on the garage, I'm like, oh my gosh, get out of here.
Yeah. It's kind of funny about snakes that you mentioned it, actually. There is this practice of Kundalini yoga that people practice, and it's the snake energy coming from the back of your root chakra all the way up your spine. It kind of twists and around, kind of like the DNA chain that goes in the body. And so it goes through, and then Shiva is a Hindu god that's kind of the charmer of snakes and desires. And so Shiva, opening up and talking about Shiva energy, there's a mantra that's pretty popular as well. The Shiva energy. So the Kundalini and waking up the Kundalini through meditation and prayer is one also another way. So that's kind of the snake energy. And so if you ever see a picture of a Hindu god who's kind of blue with the snakes around him, that's Shiva. And that energy is also woken up the second chakra, and all the chakras get opened up through Kundalini energy, kind of lifting your body up and through your breath. But it can be dangerous if not guided by a professional. So anybody who's looking at Kundalini yoga, don't just go on the internet and research it. Yeah, it can be very powerful, and it can kind of mess with your head if you don't follow proper technique and proper guidance. So there's classes on it. There's yoga classes and other things that people can go to wake up their Kundalini. But that's kind of the snake charming, old ancient Hindu practice of waking up the chakras.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up, because when I think of, because I've seen that before, and I thought it was a Medusa thing, because the Medusa story with the snakes coming out of the head or whatever, and I thought that was part of the same thing. So that's a completely different thing. Interesting.
Shiva energy is often tied with the sacral chakra. Shiva is the god of creation in Hindu mythology. He is the destroyer of the universe to better recreate it. And so creative energy is kind of what Shiva stands for. One of the mantras that's really popular around Shiva is this, dark blue character that comes up, and usually often pretty muscular guy sitting on a throne. Shiva, and then Shakti is the other half. So it's the male and the female together. Shiva Shakti is kind of the energy that's there, that's often tied together. A very popular Hindu mantra that people repeat to open up Shiva energy or the sacral chakra energy is called Om Namo Shiva. Om Namo Shiva is a simple way of doing this mantra. People repeat it over and over again. And Om means the universal God, Namo means the name of God, and Shiva is the God. So it's a really cool way to kind of quiet your mind and focus on the Shiva energy. That's one way to open up the sacral chakra, is when you're meditating, repeat these words over and over again. And emotionally and spiritually, you can wake up this chakra as well and open it up.
So when you're meditating, do you do that?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
On that one, I do. And then the biggest thing that I do is I just ask, I ask God, in essence, universal energy, to open up my chakras. And I say, focus on creativity. Help me focus on creativity today. Help me focus on my desires. Help me to, and then I thank the universal energy for opening up my chakra. So I feel putting attention to it for each keyword. Mm-hmm. We talked about acceptance on the one last week, focusing the word acceptance. I want to accept everything and everyone as it is today. This one, I want to be able to open up to new ideas. I want to be open up to my desires. I want to be able to pray for things that I want, and not to be blocked by things that I don't think I can have. I want to be open up to ideas. So I want to write down a number of ideas in my head, or think about ideas, or write down ideas on a phone app that I have, a notes apps, and what are some of the ideas that I might have today of improving my health. One way that I'm trying to do is, one small thing I'm trying to do is, instead of just taking the whole diet thing, I'm just trying to say, what are the ideas that I can work on? So now I'm trying to say, okay, I want to eat more protein, and more protein means less ice cream for me, because I'll be less hungry.
No
protein
deal.
tends to satisfy us a little bit more.
No deal. Kumar, no deal. If there's no more ice cream, no deal.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's I didn't have ice cream last night. I wanted it so badly. I almost went to the store and got some, but I think for me, I eat ice cream way too much. So that's one of those obsessions that I want to kind of tame.
Right.
So my desire and new ideas for eating healthier is to eat more protein and less ice cream. That's kind of what I'm working on. So ideas, opening up ideas, writing down ideas is one great way to create, being creative and open up your chakras.
So let me ask you this about that then, because I take a lot of notes too. I talk into my phone a lot. I use Google a lot. I use AI a lot. I use a lot of. I have a note app that I have right on the front of my thing. So anytime I have something that I want to remember, I write it down. I type it into the notes, and so I'm using my phone constantly for things. And I've been seeing more and more pop-ups and more information about some of these AI type assists that like our wearables. I don't know if you've seen any of those at all. That you clip something on, or you add it to, you set it on your phone or something like that, and it'll listen to your phone calls, and it'll basically outline your phone calls for you. It'll tell you what you talked about, what you need to work on, what your different products, the different things that your conversation was about. And it'll basically flowchart everything for you in your life with this app. But I've seen a couple of those around, and they run between $100 and $300 on a monthly service and whatnot. Have you seen or heard of any of those? And have you used any? If you have,
honestly, I have not. I know that one of the easy uses of AI is speech to text. That's been around for over a decade. And so turning speech into text, like you said, from a phone call into a text. Mm-hmm. And then now making it more meaningful, making it more conversational. They call it conversational AI. It's really helpful. Generative AI is kind of the ChatGPT thing. These are all creative solutions that people came up with in a really smart way. I have not seen those apps. Okay. But I can see a use for them. I I think that writing things down and coming up with ideas and looking at things that are possibilities, the key to this particular chakra is really around possibilities. It's about openness, opening yourself up, using the word open this chakra so that I may see the possibilities of my desires, so that I can see the relationship that I may want to have, the opportunity at work, opportunity at ideas for a business, opportunity for a creative song that I might want to write. Putting yourself in that mood of the possibilities, opening yourself up. That's what these things are all about. And that's what this particular one is all about, opening yourself to creativity.
So
The
I
next
wonder
one
though.
to kind of go ahead.
Let me just kind of
Go ahead.
add to that though. But I wonder if using some of these new type technologies that are out there, like the AI, for helping yourself to open up your ideas or to open up your mind and your mindset, if that basically stifles the sacral chakra, or if it adds to and helps out. You kind of know where you understand what I'm asking about that?
Yeah. If it's a new idea, it opens it up, right?
You would think so, but then
that you're working on.
But then it's not you coming up with the idea. It's the computer coming up with the idea.
You're never coming up with the ideas in yourself. The ideas are in the ether. They kind of come to you through music, through a video that you saw, through a TV show that you saw, or a book that you read. The ideas are out there. They just come into your sense through a channel per se. I'm not talking about channeling in human beings, but it can come through a movie. It can come through a song. It can come through.
And the different building blocks that we have, because I mean, you and I, we were raised in the same area. Then we've spent the last 40 years of our lives living somewhere else, and we take the building blocks that we had from when we were younger to the building blocks that we've had to build, the castle that we are now, and that kind of that each of those different things helps us to come up with a different thought and a different process. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's it, exactly.
Okay.
Inspiration or openness comes from anywhere. It can come from ChatGPT. It can come from OpenAI. And the idea of being open to new things, that's when you receive, right? That's what this chakra is all about. Opening to receive ideas and inspiration. When you're closed, when your chakra is closed, you're not open to these things. So the idea is to be open to your desires, looking at the possibilities, looking at saying, instead of being pessimistic or being negative, saying, oh, I can't have that. That's a closed chakra. When you say you can't have that, you don't think you can have that. That's a closed chakra. What you want to do in this particular one is be open to the possibilities. Openness to new ideas of receiving. I got ideas from a book that I was reading. My wife was making fun of the book. The book was only 35 pages long. I think I might have told you about it last week.
My kind of book.
Yeah. Yeah. 35 pages long, but it was $14.95. She's like, are you getting your money's worth out of that? I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's 250 pages or 35. Right. If I got a nugget of information that I'm using, it's valuable to me. And so anyway, being open to the possibilities, creative ideas, they can come from AI, they can come from music, they can come from art, they can come from reading a book, they can come from your friend and a conversation that you and I are having. Somebody could think about an idea of, hey, this wearable AI can help me listen to something, or it can transcribe music for me, or whatever. Come up with an idea, and that's what being open to it is. And so the idea of this chakra is really around desire, wanting something, and being open to wanting something.
I was going to say, honestly, in the year and a half, whatever that we've been doing our podcast, I feel like this chakra and the other ones have opened up for me, just for the fact that, I do look forward to these conversations, and I do look forward to sometimes we agree with each other, sometimes we don't, sometimes we see eye to eye, so you know what I mean? And so I like the give and the take and the opportunity, to explore the different thoughts and the different things that we're exploring.
Yeah. And what's interesting about it, Bob, is that, I'm bringing this ancient science, if you want to call it, or ancient methodology, and lots of thoughts and reading books and practicing it through meditation and all of this stuff. And what you're doing is, in layman's terms, helping me to simplify it and saying, hey, for an average person, how does this make sense and apply? That's why you and I get along so well, is I take this complicated stuff and I'm able to, through your help, make it so that it's digestible, so that it's usable by an average person. And that's the conversation that we're saying in our daily life. That's why we're so conversational. And, for an average person, we want to make sense of it rather than complicate the heck out of it and have to do some Kundalini yoga practices. I mean, you can certainly do that. That's really complicated stuff and go down that path. But we're trying to make it digestible. We're trying to make it
simple and doable.
So we can use it.
Doable for the average person. So let's wrap this one up, but let's give our listeners something to work on in order to help them to open this up and to be able to achieve and to receive some of the sacral. How do you say it? Sacral chakra. Say that 5 times.
Yeah,
fast.
The key thing is to say, I want to start out with people's desires. You can say, I desire to be wealthy. I desire to be more fit. I desire to have a better job. Maybe write down 5 desires that you have this week. Just saying, hey, they're the desires that I have. And then come up with 5 ideas for each one of those to say, these are the possibilities that I could possibly receive for these. So my goal is to publish a book. We're in the process of doing that for Fall, Rise, Give. So this week, I can focus on 5 ways that I can make my book better. How am I going to do that? I'll write down the 5 goals this week. I have a big week at work. What are the 5 ways I can be more productive? Looking at ideas and how I can do that. So I'll promise to do that. We can check up on me next week if you want. But look for 5 ways. Don't try to make it complicated. Don't try to do 10 or 20 things. Just simple 5. You can start out with just 3. 3 ways that you can come up with desires that you have. 5 ways would be great. 5 ideas for each one of those. What are ways you can open yourself up to actually believe that you can get these things moving in the right direction? And see what happens. Just the exercise of it itself will open up your chakras. And just thinking about it will open it up for you, because so many times we think we can't do anything and we're blocked and we don't live a more fulfilling, enthusiastic, empowered life because we think we can't get anything. Just write down 5 desires and then look for a number of ways, 2 to 3, 4, 5 ways that you think you can actually get what you want.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall, Rise, Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall, Rise, Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.